Hey, good morning, everybody. Sarasota Tim coming to you from inside the rental car for the last time. I'm getting the crusher this morning. I'm waiting for the call. First, I'm going to have a little coffee. Thanks to the subscribers that sent me multiple Dunkin' Donuts cards. I'm still wearing them out. I've got a medium hot here with cream and equal. I know I'm going to hear about it. I had one at the house already, but I thought I'd have a little coffee and talk to you guys this morning on morning chat. After this clip, when I get through, I am including a devotional, a very short couple of minute devotional that I did make in the crasher this morning before exiting and coming over here. And I just like to mix it up sometimes and not make all the videos sitting in the theater seat there in the crasher. And I get out, I like to walk on the beach. We're going to have that coming too. I've got some other ideas. I hope you enjoyed the videos yesterday. I was just trying to get something out to you guys because I've been kind of silent. A lot of things have been going on. But this morning, I started talking about old times to a friend of mine. He gave me a call this morning before I got here to get my coffee, which is too hot to drink yet, but I will in a second. I think I'll take the lid off. But let me tell you what I did last night. Sometimes I have a concert and I rock out in the crasher because, you know, I'm parked in a situation where I'm not going to disturb anybody, and I have a sound bar that's connected to the TV. Well, it's not really connected. It's connected to anything I Bluetooth it to, the TV or my phone. So I started putting on some country music. Big country fan. Ray's classic rock, of course. Love jazz. I'm an eclectic taste when it comes to music. I like it all, even classical, if I'm in the mood. So I started, I don't drink. I used to do these things when I drank, but I don't drink or anything. And I was just sitting there and I was watching a few things on YouTube. And something came up, I guess, in the suggestions or whatever. There was hang on, let me take a sip of this delicious Dunkin' Donuts coffee. Good morning, you 62,000 almost. Knocking on the door, man. Subscribe. Let's get that thing up to 100,000. I want that plaque. You wonderful souls. You guys are the best. You really are. That's good Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I never had a coffee I didn't like. You know, I've been really blessed to have all those coffee gifts that were sent to me. That one that was a variety pack of K-Cups, that had some very good coffee. I forgot the name or what brand it was or where you found those, but I'd like to know in the comments if you're watching that sent me that variety pack of those K-Cups. There were some really good ones, and some that were like these different flavors that were very distinguished. I mean, they really popped. You could taste that flavor. And of course, I love the Barris coffee. That's like the smoothest, original good coffee. And I'm going to be pounding those down now that the K-Cups are kind of coming to an end. And I'll be using my little grinder. And it's not a problem. I don't know why I haven't been grinding them already, but the K-Cups are just so quick and easy. Anyway, I was having a concert. I started playing music. And you know what happens, right? You start playing a song, and then when that song is over, YouTube will suggest another song that's kind of similar in the same genre or era. And so I started listening to, you're not going to believe it. I actually put this one on intentionally. I was in the mood to like stomp my foot. I wanted some upbeat. And I like Billy Ray Cyrus. I played that Achy Breaky Heart. Man, he was a good-looking guy. He was a heartthrob for those gals. They were loving that song. They were dancing on the floor there when he was on stage. You look at these live videos, instead of just the music, you get the ones with the video to it, and so you kind of get both. And then I went from that to some George Strait and the country genre. Ended up somehow I got into listening to some of the really old stuff like 50s and 60s. You remember the Archies and Bread and, CCR, of course. And then I was listening to, what was it? I'm trying to remember now. But anyway, I got into the music. And I'm sending them to some friends of mine, too. I'm wearing them out. They must have gotten 5 or 6 I sent them. I don't know whether they listened to them or not, and when you send somebody a song on the phone, if they don't have earbuds to really, enjoy it, it's not really doing any justice. Oh yeah, Josh Turner, some country, he's got that deep voice. And back in the 50s and 60s, music was really making me realize that they haven't made music since then, 50s, 60s, and 70s. The 80s had some big hair bands and some good stuff. I grew up in that era too, but I do prefer the 60s and 70s probably a little bit more. The 80s all sound the same, but there's some good ones. So I was watching Hall & Oates, but it's not Hall & Oates. It was Daryl's House. If you search on YouTube for Daryl's House, he has a place, I guess it's in the mountains in the Carolinas or wherever he's at, maybe in Pennsylvania. That's where he's from, I think. Is it Pennsylvania? All right. But he's got this wood chalet cabin place, and he has these musicians, and they host musicians from other bands, other groups from his day, modern day. Well, this morning I was watching, I was watching Tommy Shaw from Styx, a singer. He's a real small guy, worth a lot of money. He made all those songs, Renegade and others. And so Daryl will, in his band, play these guys that he has come in, their songs, and then they will sing some of Daryl Hall and John Oates songs. And it's just a really good new flavor, a new sound than the original Hall & Oates songs, which are good, but it's all live. You get to watch them play. There's a guy on there that he passed away that's a guitarist. He plays a lot of the acoustic guitars, always wearing like a straw cowboy hat. I forget his name. He actually played in Saturday Night Live band, but he's got some very talented musicians. So I love music. And although I'm not one to know all the lyrics and the names of the bands even, I can't just pull them up. I've heard every song in the world. I mean, I've heard them. So anyway, getting on this, what I want to talk about the old days. So switching from music to cars. This morning, I just got off the phone with a friend of mine, and we were talking about cars because I'm picking up the Crusher here this morning. And we started talking about this Buick that I'm driving and how it's made in Korea, he said. I look on the door jamb. And I got another Tim saying it's Korean junk, because I had several Hyundai Sonatas, and I would call it Korean junk. But I love that car. They're good cars. They had roomy cabins, and they had a big trunk, and it got 600 miles on a tank of gas. I mean, I had, I think, 3 Sonatas. They were awesome. So we started talking about Korean junk, and then he said, yeah, you remember those old AMCs? And we were talking about the Pacer, that one, it was like a bubble. And then we were talking about the Chryslers, like the K car with the wood on the side. They had that Woody. And then the Cordoba and the Imperial. You guys remember that one? And then we were talking about, you remember that? We were talking about old junky ones that Chevy came out with, and Chrysler. They had the Chevy Citation. Who remembers that? That was in the beginning of front-wheel drive, and they were the worst. Every one of them broke. And the Chevy Vega. We were talking about Chevy Vegas, and I don't know how many of you remember, but Vega made a very limited, I think maybe even 1 year, a Vega Cosworth, where they put a 350 Chevy in a Vega. Yeah. I was selling cars in those days in San Diego, and we had one on the showroom floor. They were black. They had a gold pinstripe, and the dash had that stuff you used to get out of Cracker Jacks that you would glitter when you look at it different ways, like you were psychedelic or something. It was on the dash. So, but we were talking. He said, "You remember the Galaxy 500 and how big those trunks were?" And now, when I was in high school, these cars were, dime a dozen. Everybody had one. Now you don't even see them. They're all gone. Everybody's driving a new, modern, car, Lexus, Toyota, Cadillac. Well, that's what started the conversation. Yesterday when I videoed going down A1A in Lake Worth, when I was a kid, if you had money here, and a lot of people did that lived on the ocean, they all had a Coupe de Ville or a Sedan de Ville. And they had that Landau top, that half vinyl top on the back, or the full vinyl top, or what we used to call it not the cabriolet roof. That was years later. It had like a fake convertible. It was called, anyway, they made the d'Elegance package. Before mag wheels were on cars, everybody had wire wheels, wire hubcaps. Remember that? Mag wheels weren't even around. Nobody had mags. Nobody had aluminum. They just put these wire caps on. And you used to be able to buy them. There was a hubcap place online, if you lost one, that would sell them, It was funny. And it made it look like you had an aluminum wheel, and it was just a hubcap. But all cars had basically a steel rim and hubcaps. Crazy. And then the Cadillacs had a Vogue tire. We had them on Buicks too, where it had that yellow white wall. It was a yellow wall. It said Vogue. Real expensive tires. But yeah, if you had money here in Florida and lived on the ocean, you had a Cadillac, big Sedan de Ville, the d'Elegance. And then we were talking about the interior. Remember how they were like a bench seat, like a 60-40, like a couch. It was like a sofa. They had that diamond tuck, button tuck leather. I mean, you could put 4 people in the front seat of a car and 4 or 5 in the back. I mean, they're huge, soft riding cars, man. Those were the days. Then I was talking about, you remember the Cadillac Cimarron? It was a Chevy Nova with Cadillac interior. And then Chrysler made that Cordoba, but they also made the Chrysler LeBaron, and they put a real luxury package on it. And then Dodge made the Diplomat. Remember, those were the same. Dodge and Chrysler, the only thing they did was change the name on them. It's like the Rockwood camper and the Flagstaff that I live in. They're the same thing, made on the same floor. Chrysler, General Motors had 5 branches. There was Chevy, Buick, Pontiac, Cadillac, and Oldsmobile. And they all had the same frame, but they put different names on them, different interiors in them. Cadillac being the top, Chevy being the bottom. Buick and Oldsmobile kind of went back and forth with who was a little nicer trim level. Pontiac, I believe, was below both of those. It was Chevy, Pontiac, then Buick and Olds. I sold those cars. That's when I was in the business. I remember selling the LeBarons and the Cordobas. And you remember the Corinthian leather? Yeah, when I sold cars, that's what they had. When I started out, I was at a Chevrolet dealer before I went to Toyota, and they had Corvettes were $7,500. $7,500 for a Corvette, brand new. And people would come on the dealership showroom floor and look at the price and go, $7,500. I paid less than that for my house. Man, if people only could tell with a crystal ball that today, I think the average car is $50,000. I mean, it's really tough to find a $20,000, $30,000 car that's, kind of a substantial car. You can buy them junks, some smaller ones. And I say that respectively, like when I talk about a Civic or a Corolla, but they get 30 and 40 grand for those if you put the right options on them. And they're really nice too now. I mean, they're not even close to what they were that put them on the map. But when I sold Toyotas, the Corolla, they had one that had rubber floor mats, no air, crank windows. Yeah, you could still buy cars in my day when I sold them where power windows was an option. You can't even find a car today that doesn't have power windows. That was like in the luxury. You could even get them without air conditioning. In San Diego, you didn't even really need it. People are like, I don't need that. $500? And now that's a lot more money that they add to the car. So anyway, you know, reminiscing, guys, about the old days and the old cars and the prices of them. And then we talked one time about the old movies. You know, I watch Grit TV. That's really before my time, you know, watching The Texan and Tales of Wells Fargo. But growing up, you know, it was Leave It to Beaver, The Munsters, Lucille Ball Show, Batman. You know, for my age, I'm 65. What was on every day? You know, just those good old shows. And we had to get up and change the channel on the TV because we didn't even have a remote control. We had rabbit ears to try to get a signal. And there was 3 or 4 channels. And then they had this thing called UHF or VHF, I forget which it was, that had that second dial. It never worked. There were some secret channels in there that were very snowy, but you were like, oh, look, another channel, a 5th one. And we'd put the aluminum foil on the rabbit ears to get a better signal, always moving it around and twisting it. And then people got really smart and started buying these antennas you could put on the roof of your house. Oh, you could really get a signal then. And then the remote control came out where you could click it, and it actually clicked. It wasn't a battery or electronic. It made a sound. It was a something that the TV picked up on. And how many people remember the oh, that's going to do that? That's no good. I'll roll the window down. How about that? The TVs that were a console, they were like furniture. It was a TV with the turntable stereo record player on one side, the TV in the front, speakers on it, you know, wood, that brown wood with the legs, you know. I remember when microwaves first came out, and it was like, wow, something that can boil water and cook in a few seconds. And the biggest thing that sold for microwaves was a microwave table, a thing you actually sat your microwave on that had wheels on the bottom to move it around in the kitchen. I know I'm bouncing around a little bit. I'm bouncing around a lot, trying to remember the old stuff in the old days. But it's quite amazing that in my lifetime, and I always considered myself a young guy. Now I'm, 65 years old. Of how today, and I've kept up pretty much with the technology. I'm pretty techie when it comes to the phones and the computer and stuff. I can manage. I can get myself around quite a bit. There's a lot I didn't follow that you can do, like on the laptops and everything, with some softwares and things. But I'm not way behind on that. I help a lot of people in my age bracket or a little older that never learned anything about a smartphone. But it's just amazing to me how my era, your era, most of you watching me, can remember phones with cords on them. Long before a computer. No beepers, no cell phones, no microwaves, no computers. We had answering machines in our houses, and when we left and came back, if we saw that blinking light, then we knew somebody tried to reach us. That was the only way. If we were out, there was no way of reaching anybody. Can you imagine that today? That if you're out in your car and you go to the store, you are completely unreachable. Nobody can reach out to you and say, hey, can you pick up something, or, you know, what's going on? They have to wait. until you're back at home near a landline, or I remember when the answer machines came out, and then you could, oh, somebody wanted to talk to me, and you'd listen to their voice, and you'd call them back. And then, of course, they came out with the long cord, so you could actually go sit in your living room from the kitchen, from the wall phone, and your phone would reach, hey, I'm in the living room talking to you, from the kitchen phone. We thought that was a big extension. And then, of course, remote, what do they call them? Cordless phones came out, where you could go out in your yard, or you could be in the garage, and but you still couldn't, leave the house and have anybody, talk to you. I mean, that's weird. Think about that. If I'm sitting here in my car, and this would be impossible, I'm just sitting here thinking my thoughts. No, and I was just yesterday. It was just yesterday. And then you're just sitting here like, you're not even thinking that somebody's, well, you might be thinking that, oh, I'm going to get with my friend later, or I'll check the answer machine when I get home. I was expecting a call. And it was our mindset. We never even thought, I can call anywhere in the world, talk to anybody I want right now, driving or sitting in my car, or walking around the store, grocery shopping, anywhere. I mean, think about that. And if you're a young person watching me and you watch my channel, welcome. You don't even remember those days. You're like, what's he talking about? I mean, really, just think about that. You are unreachable. There is no way, there's no device, there's nothing going to come out of the sky, nothing can tell you. We didn't have beepers. There's nothing that can alert you, I need to talk to you. That's weird. All right, enough about that. I find that just in my lifetime. And now, I don't know, I think I heard somebody say the other day that the futures are going to put phones in our heads. I don't know about that one. Somebody said that to me. The future is a phone in your head. You just think. There you go. Something like that. Tap and think about them. Nuts. But AI now, artificial intelligence is, and this is what's happening. Because see, folks, what I just said, how we went from like the Stone Age, basically, to today, which is like the super, super future compared to when I grew up. Exponentially, technology and knowledge today with computers thinking for us, AI, what it took us 20 years to think of and to create and design, AI can create and think and help us understand things in a second, in a few minutes. Because we've always been able to understand if we had the information, but we didn't have the information. So now we've got these exterior thinking things that are helping us, and it's going on right now. I mean, I think that probably within my lifetime, I'm sure of it, because there's no stopping it. There's no stopping it. I mean, the way wars are fought, the way we drive, the way we shop, everything. I mean, what it's going to do for jobs, what it's going to do to our economy, what it's going to do to one world order type thing, stuff that I don't even understand right now. But the think tanks that are building this and understand it, and hopefully for more good than bad, because just like the internet has proven to be a world of wealth, but it is so, so terrible as well. So terrible. They use it in the wrong way. And it's just ruined lives. It's just, we don't need to know stuff that fast and to be able to put that kind of thing out without any governing of what we say to others and what we can do. But I digress. So, what will be, like this would be the old-timey days. This is the antiquated time. The way cars will probably start to be produced and what they can do. You see it already in the technology of the, I'm trying to make sure this car's off, in the Tesla, in the electric cars. you know, what they're run by the computer. They have all this, and you know, the cars are already receiving things from satellites. The way we get the internet now, there's thousands of satellites in space circling and orbiting the Earth that are providing information. So we never, you know, go dark, and we always can. I don't know, folks. We went from talking in the beginning to the simpler time that we all remember, people in my age group. You could raise the hood and check the oil and change a battery, change your brakes, do a tune-up, put some points in. A time when we rode bicycles and cars were, you know, simply made, and maybe you didn't get 1,000,000 miles out of them, but they were cars. We talked to each other in a respectable way. Our country was more like-minded with our culture and our land, and we weren't a mixed bag like we are today. And there's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, I always believe when you're in Rome, you know, if I go to your country, I'm not looking to go in there and say, hey, you got all this wrong. Let's do what I want to do. Make it cater to me. No. You know, they got their thing. We had our thing. Now our thing is another thing with a little bit of our thing left. And what we used to believe in with like our government and our politicians, and we used to vote on them based on like, oh, he's handsome. Oh, he's a good family man. Oh, he said something that was, I like that. We were so easily schmoozed, weren't we? With our simple way of thinking, our trust. And now nobody trusts anything. We Google everything. We get all this coming from us from the media, from left and the right, to confuse us so that they can, you know, the ones that are trying to control, and believe me, that's going on. There's a means to an end. It's all about now power, and there's limited resources, all this money, the evil that runs in rampant across this globe now with these wars over things they say it is, but it isn't. It's all about greed and control and capturing more of it and saying they're the owners. There's owners, like George Carlin says, there's owners of this world. There's a club, and we ain't in it. We're allowed less and less every year, and it used to be every decade we started seeing less and less rights and less we could do. I mean, you used to be able to add a bathroom or a room on your house. You didn't have to ask anybody, especially if you were out, you know, away from town. Or like when I made a video the other day talking about we used to go to the desert with our sand rails and dune buggies and dirt bikes and stuff. And it was just an open desert. You're not hurting anybody. There's nobody out there, just sand. And every time you spin your tire, it just fills in. You're not destroying anything. Pure fun. But then what happened is Big Brother said, oh, look, thousands and thousands of people have created these off-road machines and are out there having a good time. How can we get part of that action? So he started taxing it and having a license and regulating this and that. And then the air. And I digress on that about the green and, you know, emissions and polluting our air and our water and all that. Yeah. Remember the day, I remember growing up, the commercial, the Indian with the tear. Somebody would be driving a car and they'd throw a bag of trash out their window from, you know, McDonald's or something. And then the Indian that was a Native American, they panned to him and he was there and a tear came down his eye like, what's the word? Gosh, I'm drawing a blank. When you throw, don't trash, don't, oh my gosh, what's the word when you throw trash on the ground? I'm losing it, folks. But anyway, we used to do that out of ignorance. Throw bottles, glass bottles, trash. Right? Nobody even hit it. You had to like dodge it. Somebody in the car in front of you might throw out a bag of burger papers and stuff. What is the word called? Can you believe I can't think of that word when you throw trash out? I'll hear it 1,000 times in comments. Not pollute. Why? I'm not even going to talk anymore until I figure it out. Do not. Whatever. So, the old times, folks, the old ways that went away like that. That's why I have a saying. Another saying of mine is, these are the good old days. And if there's anything that you want to be doing, you better get at it, because yesterday is totally gone. Those days are gone, never to return, over with, done. Can't get it back. And tomorrow, we don't know what it's going to bring, and nobody knows if it'll even come. Today is the day to crush it.